Apex. UFC Fight Night, Dolidze versus Imavov, headlined by two big, tall middleweights. Here we go. Roman the Caucasian Dolidze, the 35-year-old out of Georgia, the country of Georgia, that is. His pro record coming into this Saturday night, 12 victories with 2 defeats, with 7 big wins coming by way of knockout, and you can add another 3 wins by submission to that, which means that only 2 of his 12 victories have gone to the judges. Most recently, his hype train had a brief halt when he faced off against the Italian veteran Marvin Vittori back in March of 2023, and he's looking to right the ship and get back on his hype express, taking on another outstanding striker in Nassourdine Imavov, the 28-year-old, fighting out of Paris, France. His professional record, 12 victories with 4 defeats and 1 no contest, with 9 of his 12 wins being finishes, very even, 5 of them knockouts, 4 of them are submission wins. After losing to the future champ, Sean Strickland, where he really kind of got outclassed and he got Sean Stricklanded, he went up against the very talented Chris Curtis, who fought just recently, by the way. And that fight, unfortunately, ended in the second round due to an accidental clash of heads. And here we are. And now he goes from Curtis to the very dangerous Caucasian, Roman Dolidze. Here we go. Mark, lead us off with those odds, and then give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, this is another good one. Odds are similar to the last one. The favorite, Imavov, is minus 170. The underdog in Dolidze is plus 140. And I'm very curious to hear who you guys have in this one too, but I don't get the luxury this time. Measurables are tight. Imavov is 1 inch taller. Dolidze has a 1 inch reach advantage, so pretty much nothing to factor in there. It's tough to go against Roman Dolidze simply because of the danger that he brings into the cage. He's a physical animal. He'll bully you. He hits very hard. He can be a scary grappler. But, man, I just feel like there's a technique difference here, and I'm always a sucker for siding with the technique. And maybe that physical style that Dolidze has is exactly what you need to make the technique of Imavov into a non-factor, but Imavov has never been finished aside from the first fight of his pro career. He's been in there with Chris Curtis, who he was beating prior to the odd ending. He's been in there with Sean Strickland, hanging with him. He's beat dangerous guys like Buckley and Shabazian. He can also wrestle legitimately well, which people overlook when they talk about him. I just think he can survive with Roman Dolidze. I'd feel better about the pick if it was 3 rounds. Obviously, 5 means having to survive an extra 10 minutes where Dolidze could find something huge, and you never know with him, but I think he can do it. I'm not like 1,000,000% sold on Imavov as a top contender at 185 either, but like Roman Dolidze lost to Trevin Giles. So just seeing that shows you that there is some technique there to be exploited if he is not finishing you. And I will say that Imavov can stay safe and do just that. He moves so much better. Dolidze is plotting and stationary at times, and I just think that Imavov can kind of outwork him. So I'll take him to complete the sweep and go with my sixth straight UD pick on this main card for Nassourdine Imavov. So pull up your betting apps right now and lock in 6 straight finishes.
Yeah. Okay, Omar.
Yeah, this one is also hard for me to pick as well. I landed on Dolidze in the end. I think for me, the thing I like about watching Dolidze and what I think makes him a dangerous fighter is his awkwardness, his ability to scramble, his ability to kind of stay moving and not really letting positions take hold or solidify, which I think could be a real thing to use against Imavov if it ever does go down to the ground. But I do also trust the hands of Dolidze as well. I don't think, we're not talking about world-class strikers here, but Dolidze has good, solid hands in him. And I think it comes with its worries, especially when you add the grappling factor on top of it. So I'm going to go with Dolidze here. I think it's going to be a hard-fought fight. It's probably going to be the entirety of the 5 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little back and forth, but I'm going to go with Dolidze to get at least three out of the 2 of those rounds. Nope, 3 out of the 5 of those rounds.
So, Mark, I think you're right to point out that this matchup is going to be one of technique versus more brute strength between Imavov and Dolidze. And look, Imavov has nice wins over some guys with hype that he took. He took Kyle Dawkins' hype. He took part of Phil Hawes' hype. He beat Jack Hermanson. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Roman Dolidze. I'm talking about Imavov. He beat Joaquin Buckley. He beat Shabazian. But he also lost to Phil Hawes, who has lost 3 of his last 4 fights, even though he lost to Strickland. And Dolidze, he lost to Vettori, who's a top 5 middleweight, even though he lost to Trevin Giles. So they both have like a recent-ish loss over an elite guy and like a loss over a not-so-elite guy. And I love your point about Imavov's technique maybe trumping Dolidze's more of a brute strength approach, but it's that this is middleweight. And middleweight, to me, is that first weight class, and I think I've said this before, where you kind of start to play the game of who can just kind of catch who first sometimes. I've been high on both of these guys, to be quite honest. I'm a big fan of Imavov. I love his kickboxing. I love his striking. And I've been high on Dolidze too. I'm going to go with the feel on this one then. I think it's super even to me. I'm going to go with Dolidze. Neither one of these guys have been finished. I don't think Dolidze has been finished ever. And Imavov is also very tough to finish. He's
He has
only
not
been subbed once.
Dolidze has never been finished.
Yeah. Okay, Imavov was subbed in his very first pro fight. Okay. So for that reason, I'll say Dolidze, UD, and we'll go from there.
Wow, we all picked it to see the cards. Interesting.
We're kind of going off the numbers here.
I think it's going to be a rough
Dolidze's
fight.
the
For being
finisher, dude.
honest.
You both picked Dolidze and you both picked him to win a decision. His wins usually come by finish.
It's true. But a guy who's never been finished since his first.
Oh, no, I get it. I'm just saying, I don't know that it's going off the numbers necessarily.
True.
See, for me, the way that Dolidze wins
MMA
these
math.
fights by KO and all that stuff is really the combinations and the pressure that he puts together. But what happens when you can't get a guy to wilt? Because I don't think Imavov will wilt. So when that doesn't happen, you just keep beating on him. And so I think that might be what ends up happening. But I also don't see, obviously, Imavov. I see these kind of having like some back and forth to it as well, especially in between rounds, coming out at the beginning of the round, Imavov coming out strong for a little bit, eventually kind of getting to a point where, Dolidze kind of takes over the pace, and it could potentially steal rounds here and there just kind of through that kind of formula. But I think in the end, Dolidze is just going to put in more work overall that I can't see him. I don't see him lose.